Thank you for joining. So this is Thailand. I'm Valerie McKenzie. Sawadee ka.
I'm Johan Wimonchalao. Swadee krap.
And I'm Tapani Manawet. สวัสดีค่ะ
For all of you thinking, well, is it going to flood this year again? And I know you're probably sick and tired of it, but every time it rains, and it's raining very heavily this year, that's the first thing we think about, after traffic, of course. In today's program, what we're going to do is we're going to be speaking to a gentleman who has all the inside information, heads a committee, and that will take a lot of the program today, but at least it'll, I think, put your mind at rest a little anyway. You're going to be suffering with the flood if you move into your new home?
No, I mean, it didn't flood last year either, thank God. Which is kind of funny because just a couple blocks away there was flooding. But, you know, one thing really confuses a lot of people or gives them a misrepresentation. It's even in normal rain, there's a lot of roads that flood normally because the construction, there's not enough drainage or because it's actually a dip in the road. So it looks like it's flooding when in fact it's always like that.
Right.
Exactly.
Someone was telling me as well that with all the new projects like, condos and construction that's going on, there's a lot of sand that's in the drains, and that's why the water is kind of staying there longer than it should be.
Two things, the sand and also, unfortunately, the actual clongs or the canals are not being dredged, which they should be. Just not the main ones, but the smaller ones too. So we're going to bring you an update, and I think that for those of you, our friends that live in Rangsit, I think you'll be a little bit more relieved. I'm not sure whether I am or not yet. I don't live in Rangsit. What's the talk of the town?
Well, talk of the town starting off is the Model UN. Now, anyone who's had any experience with it looking, traditionally it's been with high school students, and it's a great program where students get to represent real countries and real issues in the world. They come together, they debate, they discuss it. Well, the first Asian Pacific International Model UN was held here in Bangkok, and around 350 young undergraduates from 46 different countries participated. And it's a great program. They're able to come together to talk about real issues like I mentioned before, looking at water management, economic development, the effects of agriculture on export subsidies, on developing countries. There's a lot of real world topics that they discuss, which is important because we're training them to actually function once they graduate.
Exactly, and I think there should be much more of this. I think it's good that they've taken the initiative, and hopefully we can all learn a lot more from it.
Well, I believe Tara over here actually was in the Model UN.
I
Oh,
was.
were you?
Yeah,
Tell us
I went
about
to
it.
the international one. Went to Manila. It was quite a long time ago. While you were talking, I was trying to think of the issues that we debated, and you know what? I can't remember. It was so long ago. But it looked something like that, although there wasn't as much waving of paper. It was very...
This was just for the cameras, right?
Well, one thing I do like about the Model UN is people, the students, the participants, they don't actually represent their own countries. So
Exactly.
as a Thai student, I might be representing Algeria. As someone from the United States, I might be representing South Korea. So you really have to learn about which country you're representing, what their interests are, what their strengths are, and debate and
Actually, it's a great soft entry into international relations because, as you said, you have to research that country and their historical relations with other countries and things like that. So it's very good. Fun.
What's the next news item?
The next news is a little more local, and we are taking a look at dams. The Gang Seo Ten Dam, which has been under debate for a very, very long time, has been getting a second or third or fourth look. This is a dam that will be built in Pitsanulok, I believe, in that area, and it has been undergoing a lot of controversy. So every once in a while, when it looks like there's going to be a lot of water, they say, we're going to build this dam. And then people protest, and then it gets shelved again. But it has never really been abandoned. So this debate has been going on for decades. But Science Minister and the chairman of the Water and Flood Management Commission has said that he will seek approval to finally build this dam and get it completed within the next 5 years.
Well, let's hope that it stays pretty dry for the next 5 years. But anyway.
There's a lot of stories, recently about dams being built, not just here in Thailand, but, we covered one in Laos as well.
Exactly.
And looking at all the effects that it's not going to have, obviously on flooding, but also on the environment as well.
Yeah.
I think so, and I think the good thing is that, we joke about it, but at least we're moving forward, and the fact that it's being under investigation again to move forward, I think is good news.
Well, taking a look at the figures, 177,000 people today have been affected by the floods this year. So it's it's quite high impact, and that's why I think they're taking another look at seeing what can be done.
Well, with the climate change, obviously, there's more and more issues that we're going to have with climate, be it some parts of our country are still in drought, whilst others are being flooded. So we have to modify and change the way we think.
Well, coming up next on Talk of the Town, who would have thought, but it is the 6th anniversary of Suvarnabhumi Airport coming up.
Wow.
It's been 6 years. Who would have thought we could have gotten to this point?
And still have the same issues.
Still have the same issues. And in fact, that is the talk of the town, is the fact that they're still having problems with the number of immigration officers at the airport. There are still far more passengers passing through the airport than there are officers able to handle that amount of traffic coming through.
It's nice that we're showing right on air at the moment a hall with no people in it, but it's normally very, very busy.
And
very busy.
And they say, part of the contributing factor here is they have a limited number of staff. They're unable to hire more officers to meet the growing demand. But on the police side of it, since they're screening so many people and making about 10 arrests a day for people who are either blacklisted or have falsified documents or any other outstanding warrants, so what happens is those officers who flag or catch these people then have to escort them to the police station that has the jurisdiction for that warrant, which means they're pretty much gone for the entire day, and they can't refill that vacancy spot there.
And the other thing too is it comes in peaks and troughs, like you at the airport, that never try to get a flight in at near midnight, never try to get one in very early in the morning because you're just being queue after queue after queue. We're not unique, by the way, this can happen globally, but it's just that at some stages we get it right and at some stages you just have to wait a bit longer. But when you get into our country, it's very beautiful. That's the consoling factor.
Right. The final talk of the town then is about drug rehabilitation courses taking place here in the kingdom. The government reported that 500,000 people or addicts are enlisted in the voluntary rehabilitation program. This is part of their effort to reduce drug addiction and try to curb the drug problem. There are 4 partners working together: the Metropolitan Police, the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration's Health Bureau, the Army, and the NCB's Bangkok Division. Now, 100,000 of those 500,000 have relapsed and are in and out, and obviously have a more severe addiction problem. But their goal actually was to get 400,000 people enrolled voluntarily, and they've exceeded that. So it's special interest.
Well, it is good news. It also was good news that a couple of weeks ago, of course, some of the drug lords were busted, and I'm pleased that the government is taking that whole issue very seriously. It just ruins so many lives, not only here in Thailand, but around the world too, where you've got the export of drugs, which just some of the stories you read and some of the stories you hear about how these drugs are being taken out of the country in person, on person, wherever it may be, that the more we can get drugs out of the system, great, but when people fall into the trap, the more we can rehab them, the better off we're all going to be.
I can't help but think how this relates to a story that we had the other day about the growing in terms of depression here in the country. So, people often who are addicted to drugs already have an existing mental problem, condition, where it's depression, or they feel that this is an escape route for them.
Exacerbates, doesn't it?
Yeah, this actually offers them treatment on a voluntary basis and with no persecution as well. So they're being treated as patients rather than being offenders or criminals. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Well done. No other news for you right at the moment that we can really cover. We're getting a bit of a wind up here. But after the break, we're going to go to the gentleman who's coming here talking about the flooding. He, in fact, is going to tell us whether we're safe or we're not safe. Stay tuned.